We are back with Kevin and Nathan Biller as they take us deep into the intricate world of powder formulation. Ever wonder about the process of making powder? They unravel the mystery behind extrusion. Is it just a matter of tossing ingredients into a blender and hitting blend? Spoiler alert, it's far more nuanced. We delve into the fascinating interplay of chemical additives, pigments, and polyester resins, all tailored to the desired performance your powder supplier aims for. It's a delicate dance, and the billers shed light on these intricacies that make powder production as challenging as a custom coater strives for that flawless finish. Just like no two custom coaters are identical, the powder landscape is equally diverse. Get ready to revolutionize your powder coater game! So how so the main component, let's get into main components. It's like this resin kind of stuff that binds to the polyester, and then you add in a pigment. This is the stuff I say to people, right? I don't know. And then maybe there's an additive in there for sheen or texture. Is that what an additive is? I don't know. Talk about that.
You want to give the overview?
Powder coatings typically have about anywhere from 6 to maybe 12 or 13 ingredients. So there's going to be a resin, curing agent, or co-reactant, and then you're going to have a couple additives that's pretty much in almost every powder coating, but you're going to have some additives in so the resin and curing agent behave themselves, and so the stuff melts and flows well. So you got that. You're going to maybe want color if it's a clear coat. No, but if color is involved, it could be, an easy one is black for most of them. A little bit of, black pigment. But if you're making a bright yellow or an orange or a red, it's a little trickier, but typically you're going to have 3 or 4 pigments to get that right color, to get that, brown where it's the right brownness, the right darkness, the right whatever. So you've got the resin system, you got some additives for the resin system or binder system. You've got your colorant pigments if you need them. You probably are going to put a filler in just because it gives you better economics, and it may give you some performance too. It might give you a lower gloss if you want it or not. It might give you better barrier properties if it's the right kind of filler. Then you would call it a functional filler or mineral pigment or something. But, those are the main components. If you want it textured, you may put something that gives you texture, a texturizing agent. If you wanted to do something else, like if you want a low temperature cure, you may put an additive like a catalyst in so that it cures at a lower temperature. If you want it antimicrobial, you put in a magical additive for microbial behavior. If it's a clear coat that needs to last 10 years, you may put a UV absorber, maybe a light stabilizer to keep it from chalking, for 10 or more years. If it has a tendency to yellow, you might put an antioxidant in it, which kind of, if the color is critical and if it's a light color like a white or a pastel, you may want to put in an antioxidant if you need it. If you want it to be slippery, say things have to slide for some reason, it's something, part of a conveyor system, part of shelving that needs, slippery sliding, so things don't drag on the surface, you put in a slip agent. If you want a lower gloss, depends what kind of gloss. It could be a little bit lower, like a mid-range or something, or it could be a low gloss or a matte. You start throwing things in to get those effects. Chemical resistance, a lot of times for things like chemical resistance, number one, you don't put anything bad in it. Same thing for UV resistance. That argument about like the red pigment, you got a perfectly good binder or resin system, and then you put in a cheap low-cost pigment, and the pigment falls apart, whereas the resin system's still good, but the aesthetics go down the tube. So if you want metallic, that's another thing. You put some sparkle in, or you put some sheen in.
Right.
If you want like a bronze or a antique look, which you're probably familiar with it, you put in maybe a pearlescent pigment.
So like if you're trying to make orange,
Mm-hmm.
do you just grab it's a pigment that already is orange, or would you be combining yellow and red to make the orange? That's just a question. I'm like, as you're describing it, I'm imagining a big giant grinder or mixer.
I can talk about how this stuff's actually made, because I think that'll enlighten people a little bit why it's not so easy to just get a color custom made. There's time and there's processes that go into it that the reason that that's so tricky to say, oh, I want a 5 pounds, a 5 pounds of powder that matches my shoes, and I want to pay this much for it. It's like, it's really hard to find that middle ground where like we can charge enough for it and they will pay for it. But anyhow, I don't have any visual aids queued up.
Well, that's okay, because there was somebody had a really good one at the powder coating week that I found fascinating, because somebody was talking about how they extrude powder and stuff, and I thought, wow, that's a great graphic. But basically, it's just kind of a mixer system, right? That you combine all these components, and you have to mix it really good because it has to be consistent, right?
Well, you blend it dry, and then you feed that dry blend into a melt mix extruder.
Yeah. So all of the components that go into it, we're talking about the resins, the additives, the pigments, the fillers, all of those almost exclusively are going to be solid at room temperature. So we're talking about pellets, we're talking about dust, we're talking about flakes of resin, stuff like that. So we get all these dry components. We're not making a wet paint and drying it out, for instance. Right, so we take all these dry components, and then the first step after weighing it up according to your formula is to blend those together just we call it the pre-mixing stage. That part is just to make sure that stuff is even all the way throughout. Because if you're making a really big batch, for instance, you might do 20 of those batches and run them back to back, but you just want to make sure that everything going into there is consistent, and then everything is mixed well enough that the next stage, when you feed it in the extruder, that you have like a homogeneous mixture that's always going to be coming out through for the whole batch. The extruder then is that's the paint making step. That's our compounder. And that's where, it would be useful if I pulled up a video or something now. But all those dry things, they get fed into the extruder. The extruder has, heated barrels, and then there's screws rotating on the inside. And on those screws, there's some sort of a kneading element. Mm-hmm. So the purpose of the extruder is, one, to melt and mix the polymer stuff, the binder, the polyester, everything else that comes with that. So those parts actually, they melt because we're extruding around, say, 100C, like the 210F kind of neighborhood. So you're taking those components, you're melting them, and then just mixing them together with the kneading. But there's also all those little particles, the pigment, the fillers, all those sort of things, that energy from the screws kneading into each other is also breaking up those particles and spreading them out evenly throughout the mixture. So that's a really short process. It's done quickly, but with a lot of intensity, because powder coatings, if you heat them up for too long, they start to cure, they start to harden. And so you can't, I don't actually have hands-on experience with thermoplastics, but for injection molding or thermoplastics sort of stuff, they also use an extruder, but that stuff they can have in there and melt and knead it for as long as they need to, because there's no chemical reaction going on. With our thermoset powders, you have to do the work in a short amount of time and then dump it out and cool it. And then at that point, your formula is fixed. You can't take that and really change it. You can't adjust the color to it at that point. All you can do is you grind it into a powder that's the right size to spray it, and then you're good to go. There's different ways of grinding into a powder, but they're basically just different sizes of hammers hitting particles until you get that real nice fine powder, which have a lot of control over that particle size.
The other thing that just mentioned, the extrusion process is continuous. As long as you're feeding it, you're making your product, your powder. It's a very short dwell time in that barrel. Might be 15, 20, 30 seconds at the most. But you can run that thing for days, for shifts. So as long as you're mixing stuff and putting it in, you're making product.
Hi, this is Ross at Maui Powder Works.
I have this problem with my finish. It's peeling and cracking, and there appears to be a white powdery substance underneath. What's happening?
Oh yeah, that's a common problem. It's called electrolysis, and in extreme weather and climates, it can ruin the life of your finishes. What we do to fix this is we install a Duralife fastener.
Prevent the early onset of coating failure with our specially designed screw cap that fits any 1/4-inch hole.
Give all your commercial and residential jobs the longest durability against corrosion in harsh environments, perfect for powder coated, painted, or conversion coated finishes.
To order your Duralife sink fasteners today, go to MauiPowderworks.com, click Shop, then click Duralife. While you're there, check out our other products.
Extend the life of your finish. Let Duralife be your protector.
Yeah, so if I was trying to match the orange, like you're saying, I would have a starting point formula. I would decide what chemistry I wanted it to be, and then if I'd made a orange similar to that in the past, I'd have a starting point. I'd say, oh, these pigments at these ratios, I think are going to get me pretty close. But I have to go through that whole process every single time I want to check the color. So I have to weigh up a sample, I have to mix it, I have to extrude it, grind it, sieve it, spray it, bake it, and then I can read the color. And then, it's just, we have color instruments. I'm sure your listeners are familiar with those. But yeah, you read the color and then it'll say, oh, this is a little bit too dark. This is a little bit too yellow. And so I go back to the drawing board, go back to the formula, and I say, okay, I tweak the ratio of those pigments. Then I have to take it all, weigh it up again, pre-mix it, extrude it, grind it, sieve it, spray it, and then check the color again. So you can see where if it's a difficult color and I have to do that a dozen times, then it's like days of work.
Yeah.
to
I
match
mean,
color.
okay, so two takeaways that I'm getting now from you guys is, in a sense, powder formulating is similar in the sense that when you're a powder coater, you get one shot at something, right? You can't, it's not like painting where if you missed a spot, you just hit it right there and do it, like you have to do, it's like you get a one shot thing. So that's interesting because, we have to deal with that here in powder coating, but you guys have to deal with it there as a formulator. You get one shot to make this orange. If it's wrong, then you got to start all over again. And maybe that's why the made to order kind of stuff has been kind of slow to coming to the industry too, because it
Really
could take
tricky.
you all day to get that right perfect orange.
Or, if you took a yellow and a red and they were powder and you mix them together, you're going to get a speckle. You're not going to get an orange.
Right. Yeah. You're not going to get right. Yeah. Yeah.
Not like liquid paint where you could just stir it.
Yeah. Liquid paint, I think they make a big batch, they get it close and then they're like, okay, we can add a little bit more carbon black. We can adjust the viscosity. We can put some more solvent in it to thin it down. But like, they're driving it into a box to match it. Ours, it's like, we have to have it right at the beginning or else the end product's not going to be what we want.
It's a little more challenging.
Yeah. In the end, it's kind of interesting. I guess the funny part of it at the end is, as a powder coater job shop, everything around us, all the powder that falls on the floor gets swept up at the end of the day's work. It's always gray, right?
Yeah.
So, you
true.
can shoot red, orange, yellow, black, green, and then when you mix it all up and you have it all in the sweeping up the floor wherever it ends up, it's always gray. You just never know how it always ends up being gray, no matter what color it starts off with to be. But let's talk about something that I kind of learned recently. It's about bonded and non-bonded, the differences, or not the difference, but like what's the process? What makes a bonded metal or metallic bonded? And then what are the outcomes if you use something that's not?
You want to take it, or you want me to?
Basically what happens is if you want a metallic, and the metallic can be sparkly, and the sparkle can be dependent. It could be a big sparkle, small sparkle, pearlescent even, or you want a patina or a sheen, whatever. But if you say, hey, I want to do this, so Nathan's discussion about, we have all the ingredients, we mix them, pre-mix them. If you do that, if you put your metallics into your mix and then run it through the extruder, like Nathan said, it's aggressive, it's intensive, there's shear. What it does is it takes the aluminum flake and it just beats the crap out of it. So then it comes out grayish, kind of, sort of a little bit of metallic, but it's not sparkly anymore. It looks bad. So, powder coating technology person, we can't do that. So we're just going to we'll make a light gray powder or dark gray, and we'll put in the metallic flake after it's been made, after it's into a powder. Could be in a box already. So we'll take it out of the box and we'll mix it with this aluminum flake or any other metal, but typically it's going to be aluminum. That seems like a pretty good idea. But as you know, the spray process, there's a few things. You start with taking this material out of the container, the box or the drum, or it could be actually, a big skid-sized carboy or box or whatever. You take it out and then you put it into a fluidizing bed, fluidized hopper. Well, all that movement tends to make the aluminum go that way and the powder to go a different way. You can get segregation. It's very, very common. So when you're spraying, it may look good to begin with, but the ratio of metallic to the powder may change. And it'll even get worse if you have a reclaim system.
Right.
So say all you did were metallics, and it was 2 different metallics, and you just sprayed like for a week one, and then a week, and you were collecting the overspray and reusing it. Well, the stuff that didn't make it to the part is going to be a different ratio of metallic to the powder. That may work if you just do a spray to waste. You say, we don't recycle. This is a one-time job. It doesn't have to be the same day in and day out. It's for one job. So the powder coating people said, well, how the heck are we going to get this so it's consistent? And somebody came up with this idea, and it's kind of crazy when you think about it, but take a finished powder, take a powder, like a base we would call it, but, kind of the color. It could be, usually it's a shade of gray or dark or black. Take that and then mix it in a mixer to the point where it's getting warm and the particles are actually softening a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Then you stop, you open up the container, you throw in your aluminum pigment, you close it, and then you turn it back on. And what happens is those metallic flakes stick to the powder particles.
Okay.
You're on a knife's edge, but the end product basically is you've got a particle of powder and it's got flakes on it, and they're stuck. But the thing is, it's a bit of art and science, because if you push it too far and it gets too warm, it's a brick.
Right.
The other thing that scares the daylights out of people, well, if you want to make a bomb, you could use aluminum flake and oxygen and energy. You could blow up your plant if you ignited
Do it.
aluminum flake. So you have to have special grades of aluminum flake, and you have to have a very controlled process. So it doesn't get too hot. And what some people do is they'll put nitrogen in the mixer, so there's no oxygen that could accelerate. Right. You get a spark in there and kablammy. So bonded powder metallics are specially made. There's that secondary process after you made the first powder, the base, and then you blend in your metallics, and then you've got something that's got particles that are, comprised of a base particle and then metallic flakes.
Well, and
they cost more too, right? Oh, sorry, Nathan, go.
And yes, because there's just that much more steps to the process. But what you end up with is particles that all look pretty similar to each other. It's all powder plus metallic, and so that's why you can reclaim it and reuse it. But also, if you're just spraying stuff that's been blended, like low intensity, just combined, shaken together in a bag, your metallic, a lot of it's going to want to get pulled into the air.
Stick to your gun tip.
The exhaust, it'll stick to the gun tip, and then I'm sure you've seen that before, where you're spraying a metallic and it sticks, and then it goes, and it explodes, and so you end up with goobers in your surface. So bonding kind of gets rid of all that, but because it's additional steps and they're specialized equipment and all that sort of stuff, it does add to the cost of the coating.
We had a funny story with Mick Fleetwood from Fleetwood Mac lives here on Maui. And I know I've shared this story before, but I'm going to share it again because it is related to metallics. So for some reason, out of the blue, we get this lighting guy who ordered some nice outdoor lights for Mick's garden, so he can walk in the garden on Maui and reminisce about all his days at Fleetwood Mac. I don't know.
The days he remembers.
I'm not sure why. I never found out, but Mick chose these from a manufacturer in Idaho, lighting manufacturer in Idaho, who does their own in-house powder coating. And I'm not sure why they came unfinished, but for whatever reason they did. And at first it was like, oh, just shoot any old in-stock metallic you have, he'll be fine with it. Well, no, he was not fine with that. He didn't like the color. I'm not sure what happened. It's just one of those never-ending, snowbally kind of miscommunication on every level, you know, and then a fussy client like Mick Fleetwood. So he goes, no, I want the powder look of the company that I saw the sample with in Idaho. So Ross calls up the company now and says, what powder do you use? And they're like, oh, this is, I'm like, oh, well, we have an account with them. We'll just order it. So it was just like an off the, like something out of a catalog. So we go ahead, order it. We reshoot them. This is the second redo now of 30, 35 of these lights. And we deliver it. And all of a sudden we get back, we get paid, the lighting guys all excited. And then a couple days later, oh, Mick doesn't like the colors. It's not the right one. And we're like, no, this is the right one. We called the company and asked them specifically what the color was. Well, it's not what he's wanting. And we're like, what are you talking about? This is what they did. This has got to be what's going on here. Well, we were just kind of thinking back and forth, like, how is it not the right color? That doesn't make sense. Then Ross got a hunch and he called the company again. And he goes, by any chance, do you use a hopper or a box feed? He goes, oh, we use a box feed. Well, all that heavier particles from the metallic part would shake down to the bottom. And what we found out was, and because we shoot with a hopper here, and what he found out was it was the color without the metallic part taken, the metallic shaking out to the bottom, and the color was the color that he liked. And now we're in this predicament where it's like, we can't achieve what he wants because of the way that the powder coater lighting company does it. It was an impossible
It was like
situation.
applied poorly in the first place.
It was applied poorly in the first place. Exactly. So like, it was a really kind of crazy dilemma. The funny story is in the end, in order to convince Mick of what he wanted, again, here's the part where we have to direct people to what they want sometimes is, and this lighting guy that was here locally that had the job was pulling his hair out, because now he's having to pay us 2-3 times over because we have to now strip everything and do it all over again. Yeah. And it's not his fault directly, but like, yeah, it was just a big miscommunication snowball thing. Anyways, so we're explaining to him the situation that we're in. We can't fix this. We can't create this. So I said, look, we just did a job for Oprah Winfrey. Here is the color that we chose, that Oprah's designer chose for, and it was a cardinal or something like that, right? A really nice oil rubbed bronze, not a lot of metallic flake in it at all, but just a really nice bronze, and seemed to be pretty close to what he wanted. I said, and I put a little Post-it in there, and it says Oprah's color, and it's got a arrow pointing down to the color. And I said, you say, this is Oprah's color. She used it on her house. She has a house here in Maui, so he's very well aware of where she lives. And you tell him Oprah chose this color, and what's good for Oprah is good for him. And sure enough, I'm not even like a day later, they're like, yeah, we want that color. We want Oprah's color, so literally keep the Post-it in there for those kinds of clients that just can't be satisfied.
Hey guys, we never thought the Powder Coater podcast would take off as well as it has. The level of engagement and bringing custom coaters together has been wonderful and worth every late night edit and weekend recording.
Whether it's product features, smart business strategies, or custom coder interviews, we are encouraged to continue to bring great content. That's why we're going to show you how you can help us just a little bit more by sponsoring the show for as little as $1, $5, or $10 per month.
Just go to rosscoat.com page and look for the Become a Patreon button in the upper right-hand corner of the page. Once you're there, you can scroll to learn more about our goals and mission, grow our community by bringing you new episodes and news each week.
With every sponsor level, you get something for yourself, too, to guarantee your success as a powder coater. We are so thankful for you and enjoying the content we bring you each week, and hope you show your support by becoming a sponsor. And level up your powder coater game.
And it worked.
Well,
it worked on Mick.
I'll tell you the approach that we would actually take with that is if you spray one panel and you hand it to the customer and say, do you like this? Is this what you're looking for? They're going to say, no, it's not this, it's not that, it's not this enough. But if you give them two panels and you say, which one do you like better? Then it's easier for them to be like, oh, yeah, that's the one right there.
Yeah, we usually give them two choices, not more than that, but it's like, and occasionally they'll say, we want something in between.
Yeah, or more of this or more of that. But it's just like a psychological thing. If you've got two choices, then it's easier to say, oh, yeah, that one looks awesome.
Right.
We did make custom colors for Martha Stewart, and it was for, she doesn't have greenhouses, she has conservatories.
Okay.
But it was East Coast, and it was when I had that custom powder manufacturer.
Right, yeah.
And they just, they picked the colors out of something, her designer or whatever. Probably was her, for crying out loud. I don't know. She didn't talk to us. But it was like there were two different colors, and they were matte, and they were kind of gardeny colors, like an olive-ish kind of, whatever. And another one was more brown. But it was like, and we nailed it. And, maybe she asked the right question or something. But yeah, we did.
But you never know what people's perceptions are, right? People's perceptions about color are so diverse. And they let alone the powder formulation that goes behind it. They're not thinking that, right?
Yeah, I guess that kind of brings it all the way back around to understanding expectations and asking for the right, asking the right questions, but asking for the right attributes are really important. Mm-hmm. We've done work with even like really big OEMs, the guys that spray like 1 million pounds a year or whatever, where they're wondering, oh, why is it hard to get consistent product from our supplier, or why is it hard to change from one supplier to another? And it's because their specification needs to be really specific. You need to say like, okay, it needs this performance under these conditions. It needs to cure this way. Like there's a lot of those that go into it. And if you're asking for a color, there's nothing better than having a physical actual sample, like to match it against. And
to compare it.
Yeah.
To compare it. It should be like, everybody should have that color panel.
Yeah. And there should be there should be a master standard, and then all other standards are made based off of that one. Mm-hmm. Because you get that, measuring the 2x4 off the last one thing where every time that you make a change, you're changing it to the last iteration instead of like looking at the master standard.
Really important.
Going on a tangent there, but
it's important.
But
no, it is.
It's about understanding what you need and being able to communicate it. Because I don't know, it sounds like Mick Fleetwood could have, pointed out an example of this is what I want it to look like, and then you wouldn't have so many problems with saying, "Oh, is this what you wanted? No, is this what you wanted?"
Well, then it could be his memory. It's like, well, no, I think it was a little
right.
I thought it was a little more sparkle.
Or maybe Idaho's not quite as sunny as Big Island.
Yeah, right. Right. Yeah. Who knows? I mean, they're rock stars, right? Like, I don't know. They're just used to having people be at their whim and will anytime they want. Maybe there's some of that too, right? So what is, to kind of wrap things up, is that we've talked about a lot of things, and I think that a lot of everything that has been on my list has been covered, but we haven't talked about, like, to wrap it up, maybe let's talk about like powders and the powder industry. Like, are there any changes in North America that you're seeing in powders, whether it's color trends or chemistry trends? It seems like North America is still hanging on to a lot of TGIC, obviously because of performance capabilities. Anything that come to mind for you guys about things that you're seeing in the industry?
I just wrote a 3,000 word article called "Emerging Technical Trends in the Powder Coating Industry." That's going to be published in
no way
May. And I'll give you, I'm going to hit the topics, and if you want to hear more about them, you'll have to ask Nathan. But sustainability, which is a broad term, but there's some polyesters that are being made out of recycled pop bottles. Okay.
Yeah, plastic. That's what I heard. I was going to bring that up, but I'm like, maybe it's too much, too deep. But I'm glad you're bringing it up now.
Okay, so that's one. Low temperature cure. People have been saying
everybody kind of knows that one. Yeah.
Yeah, 1969. I think that was the first time they said that. But a new chemistry comes out, a new iteration, a new, way. But there's some new chemistry,
new end uses where people are figuring out. We always say, like, traditionally, if it's made out of metal and you can fit it in an oven, they're probably powder coating it because it makes sense for a lot of reasons. And so when we talk about low temperature cure, next generation, new technology, stuff like that, a lot of times we're talking about coating things other than metal. So whether that's, composites, plastics, manufactured boards, even natural wood, like that's where we kind of see the industry's, like, I guess, expanding to.
Well, that's a perfect segue.
Yeah, where we're very, we can do, a metal box, like, pretty, we'll make it look really good with powder. But that's where, a lot of opportunities for, like, oh, this is some weird, different, new stuff.
Speaking of which, ultra low bake powder, specifically UV-curable powder coatings. It's a small segment, but it is growing by over 50% a year. So it's going from zero to like, no, it's growing quickly. And just like Nathan said, it's expanding into, not like, it was originally designed for MDF, for particle boardish, whatever, engineered boards. They're doing it with composites, and it's like, it's on the hit list with a bullet or whatever, or I guess they said that in the 50s or 60s. Anyway, UV cure powder coatings, efforts being put into it. Small company out of Cleveland. I think they're the world leaders right now, and they're making stuff happen because they can. Corrosion resistant primers. The majors have all come out with the next generation or two of better corrosion resistant primers. One of the key areas is to eliminate zinc. Zinc's a pain in the neck for different reasons. and this is a good example how regulations or this or that, it's like, no, zinc-rich powders are a pain in the ass to spray. And some people say, well, there's going to be some regulations. Well, get the same performance without the zinc. Everybody's happy. And the majors in particular are promoting our zinc-free, super duper duper corrosion resistant. They have funny names for them: Zero Zinc and Uniprime and Primeron and blah 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 blah. Okay.
Okay, I haven't heard that one.
Yep. I can give you a copy of this when it publishes.
Yeah, I'll pop it in the link in the podcast here too when you do, so that people can reference it after the fact. Yeah, sounds good.
There's a new copolymer thermoplastic. Nathan talked about thermoplastic. This is an Absite product line from Exalta Coatings, and it's a single coat, doesn't need a primer, and it's got UV resistance, alkali acid resistance. It's a super duper thing that can be put on at 400 microns, which is 12 mils, is it? I don't know. From 12 mils up to like about a half inch thick. There's another thermoplastic that they're touting as a flame spray application, so you can apply powders in the field to infrastructure. So Go for it. So there's that. There's some architectural coatings. There's another one that's fascinating as hell, and I think it's going to be pretty cool if it works. It's coming out of university, but it's handling ultra fine powder particles. So really fine powder particles that are hard to spray. They've come up with a technique that they think is going to work. And I'm like, well, I'm always skeptical when it comes from a university, but let's see, maybe it'll work. Came out of Canada, a joint project between Canada and China. But anyway, it looks really interesting. Another one, electric vehicles. The majors have all come out with their recommendations for mainly bus bars and battery trays and things like that. That's blah, 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 blah. The last one I want to tell you about is retroreflective. And this is for, like, when you see a sign when you're driving in the dark, and it pops because it's more than just reflective. It actually has like that safety, reflective thing that, you see runners.
Well, whatever direction you shine a light on it, it comes directly back to you. I think that's
right. Yeah.
The definition.
PPG came up with one, which I think we know how they did it, and it's good. Hats off to them. But they partnered with Lyft. That's
yes.
the ride share. But I think this has to do with their scooters.
Right. It was something to be at night, or like it was a 2605 that, and I always have a hard time saying that word, but it's chloroflon. Is that what their 2605
Try to say
is?
Try to say that if your native language is Chinese. No, I'm kidding.
That was not doesn't roll off the tongue for me. I want to say colorflon, but they could have said that instead of
That's PPG's Coroflon. Yeah, that's a fluoropolymer. But this one is mainly for its retroreflectivity.
Hey, Powder Coating Nation, Kim Scott here. It's time to grow your business with us. The Powder Coating Near Me directory can get your powder coating shop the real exposure it needs to succeed when you list your job shop today. Join a list of top custom coaters who've listed their credentials to be discovered by the customers who are searching for powder coating every day. Head over to powdercoatingnearme.com, click Add a Coating Shop, and start creating your very own page for free. Yes, free. You can add your logo, name, address, phone number, map listing, social media links, photos, video, and more. When you submit your listing, we'll get notified and approve you right away. Now you can add all the categories you specialize in and even add your own tags. Get the SEO and valuable backlinks your company needs for authority and getting ranked. You can even use the link you create and share it to your favorite social media profiles to build legitimacy as a custom coder. What are you waiting for? Become part of the largest consumer search directory in powder coating in the world, all for free. Find and click the link in this podcast or go to powdercoatingnearme.com to get started growing your brand today.
And what do they mean by, okay, so it's that reflective, okay. Why I say retro?
I think that has to do with the returning to you.
Yes.
It's
okay. Oh, okay.
But I know that they've looked at that on like bicycle scooters, stuff like that, where visibility at nighttime.
Well, they put it on running shoes. They put it on backpacks.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Things like that.
Right.
They put it on the backs of emergency vehicles and.
Yeah, but specifically in a powder coating.
This is a powder coating.
That's really, it is really cool because it's been in tapes and, it's been in clothing and all that kind of stuff for a while now, but it's nice to know that it's available in powder now. And that was a really good presentation. I think that was a couple years ago. He did that presentation, which was really interesting. And I love the collaboration that they did. I think Lyft came to them. But that was, an exploration, not just in the coating itself, but also expanding Lyft into the scooter share bike project kind of thing. Yeah, which was ultra cool anyways, right? Very progressive.
Okay.
That's all. No, those are great. Go ahead.
I didn't say there's the topic, how to choose a chemistry for your end user requirements. I can put up a cheat sheet.
You want to share your screen? I'm not sure how you do it from your side.
I think that does it.
We covered a lot, you guys. I mean, we didn't talk about China. I always want to talk about China and what they're up to.
China. Sorry.
Well, tell them that story when you went to China, because you told me that a long time ago. We had a private conversation, and the way they think in China when you went about us. No.
I will save that for the next time we're out. It's a long story. Can you see the slide that Nathan put up?
No. Oh, yes. Let me add it to the stream. Here we go. Oh, this is nice. Very colorful.
This is a cheat sheet, and it's from our course. We do a formulators course. We teach people the basics of what goes into formulas. We call it the PC kitchen because we make a lot of comparisons between like formulating a high quality product, a powder coating, a paint, whatever it is a lot similar to, to cooking a nice meal where you have to think about all the ingredients that go into it, but it's also the process. And there's just like a lot of the same considerations, but anyway, that's the PC kitchen. But this is just kind of a cheat sheet. This isn't 100% like everything set in stone, but you can see if you're thinking about, okay, what generic powder chemistry should I be thinking about for my application? This gives you a good idea of my starting point is the weathering. I think that's the thing that's going to absolutely eliminate some chemistries, and it's going to require you to look at other ones. So you can see epoxy and hybrid, they're not weatherable. They're just not. And that's fine. They have their own applications, but if you're going to put it on the wheel of your car, think again.
Yeah.
Polyester, polyurethane, those, it says it's good or very good. And that's because there's standard durable and there's super durable polyesters. And that's, the difference between 1 or 2 years Florida resistance versus 4 or 5 years Florida resistance, maybe 5 to 10.
Yeah.
But yeah, everything kind of has its pluses and minuses. Some people say, oh, I'm going to do everything with 2605, which, that would be the fluoropolymer, and it's generally the chemistry that we use for stuff that needs to get 10 plus years outdoors without chalking and fading. So people say, like, why don't we just use that for everything? Because it's the best. And it's the best for UV durability. That doesn't mean it's the best for, whatever other important attributes there are, like flexibility right there.
Not so
right.
good.
Yeah, if you want something flexible, then you're probably going to, be leaning more towards something that has an epoxy in it, or at least a polyester.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, can you speak about acrylics really quick? And silicone, I don't know. That's a new one for me. Not as familiar with silicone, but maybe we've used it and I just never knew that we did.
You would know if you sprayed a silicone.
Because it sticks to everything?
No, because I'm sure you've heard that acrylics contaminate. Like if you just put an acrylic into your spray booth right now and you just spray it apart, the next days or weeks you're going to be chasing craters and everything. They're incompatible with polyesters. Oh. And so you either need a dedicated spray booth, you need really rigorous cleaning processes, but the incompatibility ends up with big ugly fisheye craters and
interesting.
And stuff
Yeah.
And
that does make sense.
Silicone is 10 times worse than acrylic.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's used for high heat applications where, like, exhaust parts, like, for motorcycles,
okay. So like Cerakote.
It's like that, but it's a powder. Yeah.
It's a powder. Okay.
Yeah. And when people want to do exhaust parts, they might say Cerakote or silicone powder, pluses and minuses.
Mm-hmm. And so, silicone, it's, they use it for gas grills and the fireplace surrounds and exhaust parts for motorcycles, stuff like that might be made out of silicone. But
this is handy.
If you get it anywhere near your polyesters, you're just going to have a really bad time.
So you still are doing the PC kitchen. Tell us when the next one is, or do you have one in the works?
Ooh, we'll have to look it up because we just had one that was scheduled and we ended up, I guess, we dedicated to it like a private course that we gave for, a company that wanted a bunch of people here. So,
and they backed out. We had it all set up, and they said, "Oops, we can't make it." But it's like having a restaurant, and you say, "Well, we're having a private event," and then the private event says, "No, we're not coming now."
Oh, geez.
This is the analogy.
It is food. It's No, there's a lot of crossover there in that in terms of quality and the ingredients and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Is it only in person this course, or can you make this course online, or is it online?
We've been looking at options. The thing is that we've done it in person. There was one that we did, during the lockdowns where we did do a remote version of it, but we don't really have it planned to do that right now. I don't know. We're figuring it out because a lot of it, it's difficult to get a group of people to all travel to one place. But I think that if we were doing it more online, it might be an opportunity for more people to join.
Yeah, I mean, I know I would, but at the same time, like, it is, people do learn kinetically too, right? So being there in person, having a hands-on type of thing makes sense. I mean, there's certain things you can and can't do in our industry, right? At the moment, it's just impossible unless we have like some kind of like quantum 3D, where you can virtually be there in the classroom, but not be in the classroom. I don't know. That'll never happen.
Holographics.
Holographic. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Well, this has been so enlightening, and we barely scratched the surface.
I know.
AMAA, Qualicoat, all that kind of stuff. I mean, there's so much to go on and on and on with. So I'd love to have you guys come back. I know you're super busy, and of course, you guys do your podcast. So let's just show that right now. It's the Ask Joe Powder Podcast. You guys do it every few weeks or so. It's been hectic for us. I haven't published anything lately, and it's not that I haven't been interviewing. I've been interviewing people left and right. I just haven't gotten to the editing part. So hopefully by the time this is published, all those other backlogs have been published. And so it might take us a little while to get this one going, but I certainly do appreciate your time on a Friday, late Friday for you, still around noon for me, but you guys are just awesome. Again, I know I kind of treat you guys as rock stars because you are in my world. Kevin has personally helped us out with our products and our product line, and Nathan's, just been, I get to know you every year at the powder coating week. So every year I get to know you a little bit more and stuff. So I'm so thrilled to have you guys come on the show and spend some time with me.
Well, we appreciate it. It's been fun.
Yeah,
Always.
it really has been. And like you said, there's a million topics. We'll never get to all of them, but yeah, we could
do this
again sometime.
Yeah, we'll do it again.
Yeah. And go and show it. I love your show. It's not as long as mine. It's pretty just straightforward questions and answers. And then you guys always bring in some news or updates in the industry. And I find that so informative. Something, I don't know, you brought something up about AAMA recently. It was about how when you're doing testing, you can actually do like a photograph of the test. You can start with a photograph now or something. Was it something like that? I can't remember. You said something about that, and I found that really
even an accelerated test.
I think it had to do with you could use the numbers from your color device, and you didn't have to have an actual 10-year-old test panel to compare against if you were doing a long-term test.
Yeah.
Those are the kinds of things that you guys get into on the technical side, chemistry side, and testing side that we don't ever hear maybe about, so I always encourage people to head on over to your podcast because it is different, where we kind of take more of a business approach to powder coating and, dabble in applications as well. So again, thanks again for coming on the show.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. Really enjoyed it.
Beer time for you. Soda for me.
It's beer 30. I just looked at my watch.
It is beer 30. All right. Have a great day, everyone. Hope you have a beautiful day. Powder coating. Aloha.